We were very tired of all the other works, so we decided to make our own. And these are both it. And this one we're going to read first, and it's called The Dark and Spooky Tunnel.
Or the tunnel that was dark and spooky.
This tunnel, this Gamora's twin of darkness. Even he whose eyes make falcons' moles couldn't see its light.
Flat and glassy as the sea still retreated to lowly reekings of a pebble shore. Wash
away leaks and loop tapes and leave the looks there, like a mouth trumpet for Gabriel.
These may fit, but these may not fit, as the Baska and Sututin of choirs, and the surf song stinks of shit. Mutants.
Clams lurk in the tide pools looking for small dogs running lost and handsome over black sea glass.
With nature harassed by its loudest children and the father who knows info. Dogs don't think in past, present, future.
Not smugglers' tunnels or histories, more like
3 minutes of loud shouting into a little
hat, like a submarine or something equally dull.
Even he listens to woodwind quartets. When he is alone, his heart like lactic.
Legs, the wind wildly blowing through his porthole.
How sweet then, when a fishing village starts
to worship you, leafing through the pages to learn exactly what it was that got you. What did you do? A violent but unbreakable dropping
of logs, our eyes twinned as two spotlights crossing on one act, an act of love.
Brutal, viciously unhinged, the murder of purity of which precious little was previously known.
And what was is useless now, dead in the waters, weedy rocks skimmed across the waters.
Skin, momentarily bouncing before it gives up to time and sinks, weary-headed and thick with foam and slick
with oily scum lapping every other second onto a poorly polished sheet. The tunnel goes down to the tide.
As one great wave collapsing the garden, it gives as consolation the greatest gift to poetry.
That which makes nothing from one. Two goos combined into something like a child.
Bawling on the pier over an albatross shot dead and beautiful on the wet boards.
3 boards, wet with morning dew. A man casts long a line that lingers.
Moon dust in a sleeping village, hillside littered with little gems in white.
And gold, like the opening velvet overhead. Glistening shards of little lives lived on the edge of
mossy rocks, and with red hands washed in unwanted waste of old animals.
There are no more than 2 options. Surrender yourself to the stillness of the glassy
surface burning a second heaven, so that out in the dark everything in all directions is stars, or
in a turn like America's, your mother is in fact your dad. And I have
been tasked to take them out to the smuggler's tunnel and turn them inside out, show each other
the real you. Guts and all get spilling. In the dark rising water lurks Leviathan, surfacing for
the butter of the land, to find in words that makes breath life. What makes breath life? What sin
that brings Leviathan to break his chains of water? Bubbling down the landslide from a bluff.
Or red rock, a black coat, waiting on that pebbled shore for the return of someone special. This next one is aptly titled, tentatively of course, Scrumpy Dumplings and Clotted Cram.
This is the story of cream, and those I met losing it. Visions of volcanic lucidity,
cramming the stuff in a violent nature. In the beginning there was the cream, and so
under an alien constellation I roamed. I spent 40 days and nights reaching it, and
all dark, foreboding holes just so inviting. So I went into the tunnel and came into the light.
This place was in need of salvation, and in my mind's eye I could see it already. A black robe.
Committing a sermon, no candles, no kegs, no fiddles on the stage, so
soulless I hunted the past, the moment it came to this. And look at all of them, in this
shanty town of pirates, There they were, cream in pockets, smiling as koi carp. They
seemed all photographs, clear and clean, not like I drawing pictures of a life among
driftwood, lost as a soul on the Erebus, the terror, drifting out of harbour and back in. I thought I was
a common stoat, Aristotle's bath. But the truth is, then, I didn't know who I was.
I walked those old streets as old officer knows, on a mission of old factory conversion, smell detecting.
I really likened myself to the nose then, went through clouds of sewage.
Perfume, I'm not ashamed to admit it, I smelled steak where the people were, but the
evening is faltering, and I have pockets to fill, and I hear the tram's train hurrying towards
my station. It was everywhere, drifting from the walls like piss from a pipe. Again I held
the cream in my hands. I held cream. The pokies around here are all wrong. They won't
take hard cash. I was thinking of the cream. I got so close I could almost touch it, and
that minger in a flat cap. I never knew a barman could shout so hard. It wasn't
usual to be in such a state, or to have bugger written on your forehead. He was calling
for Troy in the morning, and we left the bar, wobbled by wine and the ghosts of dead.
Parts of their men's lives, our bones warm with Pernod, we stood front the stunned
mullets and shook hands. It was snowing and the sky grey, but a low glow of orange sun.
Maid, the first time I met him, and he smiled at the waves, but now she was cold and distant through the porthole.
He drank black coffee and barely looked at his mother, the sea.
He'd sold the mooring, set the Mary Lou free.
The last woman of his life. He'd finished with fish. He
told me he was going to wear a black robe, the crown of thorns leaking blood down his holy face, his
glorious chest. He loved the body of his Lord. He loved lamb, and he was tempted.
Enticed by promises of wine, I begged Sodom, stick to catching fish.
But he went to church after the two priests were caught laying hands on one
another. That's when capital sodomy was sentenced, ultimately, for sodomy. I kept my
testimony quiet. I was Caesar, and he my friend, and my tongue never asked, where does the
trouble makes come from? Who is he? What is his state? Whose milk was her steak?
Who's he tied to the driftwood pyre? But his heart was a hard place.
Mine no rock. And when he screamed, cut me I bleed jam, we're out of time.